I've just binge-watched The Incredibles 1 and 2, and let me tell you guys, the stuff these so-called superheroes have gotten up to ain't so incredible. Every character in this franchise is guilty of serious crimes, and I'll be holding everybody accountable here. No one's safe, even the baby. In fact, let's start with little Jack Jack. Boss Baby's got nothing on Jack Jack, who poops in a way fancier suit and can shoot fucking laser beams from his eyes. And I know something that'll shoot even further than Jack Jack's laser eyes is jail time. At first, Mr. Incredible was proud of Jack Jack's powers, but they eventually became too much to handle, and he became a nervous, sleep-deprived wreck. Completely understandable, though. The only thing that can keep the tot calm are his beloved cookies, and when Bob dared to take those away, he almost became the cookie himself. Can't keep giving it, but if I stop... Oh, yeah. Nope. Taking a bite out of his own dad is domestic assault can lead to a whole year in prison. I just hope Jack Jack's jail keeps stocking up on the cookies will keep everyone safe. When the kids were on the run from Screenslaver's minions, they tried to hide in an air vent, but Jack Jack's infectious little giggle gave up their hiding spot immediately. This caused one of the supers to start closing the walls in on the kids, causing Jack Jack to become super uncomfortable and super mad. And we all know anything can happen when that baby gets angry. Jack. Imagine if he had a dirty diaper, though. Those poor people were crushed underneath it. Violet tries to soothe her giant baby brother's crying with a cookie, but he gets offended by its tiny size and runs away without using the door. Jack Jack caused a lot of criminal damage to the ship while in giant form. The punishment would be at least 3 years in jail with a giant $500,000 fine. Welcome to the bank of Mom and Dad. After Mr. Incredible falls asleep while watching him, Jack Jack becomes glued to a boring black and white crime film like it's Coco Melon or something. He gets interrupted by a sneaky raccoon rummaging through the garbage, and feeling inspired with the crime movie he just watched, Jack Jack teleports outside the home to fight off the drumstick thief. While Bob continues dreaming, the baby continues beating up the raccoon and actually punches the poor little guy so hard that he catapults to the other side of the yard. The animal gets tangled in the poolside bed with nowhere to run from the quite literally fuming infant. And as if that wasn't disturbing enough, Jack Jack, the little psycho, then starts shooting laser beams out of his eyes and laughs, trying to kill the darn thing. At this point, Bob wakes up and restrains his rabid son. He multiplies by 5, and all the Jack Jacks start to attack the raccoon. Mr. Incredible pries all his sons off the animal, and the creature runs away. Now, instead of thinking, oh no, my child is a psychopathic monster, and getting a local shrink on speed dial, Bob could not be prouder. You, Howard, there's not a scratch out the locked door. Will Bob still be proud when Jack Jack is charged with animal cruelty and sentenced to 5 years in prison? I don't know. But in a world where there's no age of criminal responsibility, baby Jack Jack would be facing a total of 9 years in jail and a $50,000 fine. He's already missing out on a huge chunk of his childhood, but this next character will be wasting away in the clink until our mid-20s. Violet Parr, Disney's first emo, and the subject of some wild fan theories. Now, I don't know if she's secretly Edna Mode's daughter or just picked up a black box dye from Sephora, but I do know that she's guilty of some pretty major crimes here. After their house came under attack from Screenslaver's minions, Violet and her siblings escaped in the Incredible. Incredible escape! The car was self-driving, but legally, autonomous vehicles require someone with a valid driver's license behind the wheel. Violet is 14, and while she technically didn't drive the car, controlling the vehicle with her voice still counts as underage driving. Incredibly delicate. Violet would be looking at 6 months in prison and a $10,000 fine for breaking the law. Who cares about the money, though? Half a year away from Tony's gorgeous face is probably a punishment worse than death in Violet's eyes. All siblings blanked, verbally, physically, but when a family of superheroes are concerned, a sibling rivalry could easily turn deadly. The family are having dinner, but Violet is too sad to eat after Tony didn't notice her at school today. Helen asks what else she'd like to eat, but Dash knows she's after something that's not on the menu. She'd eat if we were having Tony loaf. That's it! Stop! Oh, it gotta be top. Stop running in the house. No. Ow! Hey, no force field! A little jerk totally deserved that. Also, what shampoo does Violet use on that hair? It's so shiny. You can see your reflection on it. Attacking your annoying little bro would be considered domestic assault, and Violet could end up behind bars for a whole year. But just imagine how many kids would be locked up in jail if sibling fights actually became illegal. The kids love helping their parents fight bad guys, but I'm sure Helen and Bob seriously regret letting Violet meddle around with the remote that controls Syndrome's robot. The robot? Everybody in town had already run away in mass panic at this point, so nobody was killed by the accident. However, Violet could still be facing charges of criminal damage. The crime would have her thrown in jail for the next 3 years and fined $50,000, and all she was just trying to do was help. Let's add another 7 years and $5,000 to that for reckless endangerment, though. I mean, she could have easily pressed a random button and killed someone there, alright? Overall, Violet Parr is going to be spending a total of 11 years and 6 months in jail, and she's only got herself a $65,000 fine to pay. Violet's future has been thrown right in the trash can, but what about Dash? Will he bring even more shame to their parents? Well, nobody can deny that Dash is a little nuisance to his sister and teachers. This little rat is guilty! You and your son can go now, Mrs. Parr. I'm sorry for the trouble. You're letting him go again? He's guilty! And while annoying Violet and pulling pranks on his teachers aren't crimes, there's other stuff this problem child can be thrown in permanent detention for. After Bob gets a phone call from Screenslaver informing him that Elastigirl's in trouble, he dashes out of the house in a supersuit to rescue her. The kids want to be in on the action too, but when Dash goes to open the front door, he's greeted by Screenslaver's mind-controlled supers. Frozone appears just in time to stop the kids from falling into Screenslaver's clutches, but the supers aren't going anywhere. Dash, now realizing everyone's in danger, secretly presses the remote control to the Incredibile and does something he's always wanted to do: launch the rocket. The car smashes into the house and the kids escape in it. The self-driving vehicle is previously established, but it relies on voice commands, also as previously established. So when Dash later instructed the vehicle to chase after the foe his parents were on, he technically committed underage driving as well. That's an offense warranting 6 months in prison and a $10,000 fine, but the serious crime here was car theft. The car didn't actually belong to the family. It was in the possession of some auctioneers, so that means Dash is guilty of car theft. The crime will bring his total punishment to up to 12 years and 6 months in jail. That's older than him, and a staggering fine of $750,000. Dash is serving more jail time than his siblings. What about Auntie Edna? Are we throwing people in jail for being fabulous now? Edna Mode might be extremely short, but she's the biggest fashionista ever, darling. Forget brutal prison guards, disgusting meals. The most tragic part about going to prison for Edna would be that hideous orange jumpsuit, or in some cases white. We don't get a whole lot of Edna scenes in the 2 movies, but Pixar did release a short film starring yours truly, and in it, Auntie Edna was the world's worst babysitter. Mr. Incredible was over the moon when he discovered Jack had powers, but was so over it once the little guy became uncontrollable. Desperate to get some sleep and for the house to not go up in flames, Mom takes Jack to Edna and asks if she can make a suit that'll control his powers. She refuses, as she's not a baby person, but when she sees Jack transform into something amazing, aka herself, day to day, fascinated. Auntie Edna's down to babysit forever. When Bob leaves, Edna gets to work on designing the new suit. But first, she needs to find out exactly what powers Jack has. She gets out her clipboard to carry out an observation, and I guess this must be a highly controlled experiment because Edna does something when the baby climbs up the shelves and falls. Goes splat on the ceiling. If Jack was an ordinary baby, he would have been dead, probably within like 5 minutes of arriving at Edna's house. This mode could be prosecuted for child endangerment for failing to keep Jack safe, and a conviction would mean 3 years in prison and a $1,000 fine. So for some spare change, she'll be glad to get rid of. Edna is very short and very short-tempered. She loses her patience quickly and is not a warm and cuddly person to be around. So when Elastigirl started bawling over Bob lying to her about losing his job, he was disgusted and took it upon herself to make Helen get a frickin' grip. You are Elastigirl! My God, pull yourself together! What will you do? Is this a question? You will show him you remember that he is Mr. Incredible, and you will remind him who you are. Isn't that kitchen just immaculate, though? I know she designed it herself. Anyway, swatting Elastigirl with a rolled up newspaper like that is... is assault. A conviction will lead to 25 years in the clink and $5,000 in fines. She hit her with a newspaper, guys. There's still just loose change for someone as rich as Edna, though. All in all, Edna's gonna be spending 28 years in prison orange and has got herself a $6,000 fine to pay. No, I really hope Edna gets her own movie when she's eventually released from prison. Pixar only giving us a 7-minute short film is insulting, but man, is this next character gonna wish their prison sentence is that short. Out of all the supers, Frozone's powers are definitely the coolest, pun intended. Elsa might be able to create an annoying snowman, but Frozone's powers are strong enough to defeat a giant robot and make a huge mess in the process. Guess Dash is really dashing through the snow. See you later. I'm not coming back from that one. Frozone also committed a lot of criminal damage at the beginning of Incredibles 2 after helping defeat the Underminer. Excuse me, Mr. Sorry, but supposed to be here. Freezing the streets like that could be grounds for endangerment of public health as well as criminal damage. I mean, who wouldn't be at risk of slipping and breaking their neck? Elastigirl, maybe? Those two crimes earned Frozone a total of 13 years in jail as well as a $50,500 fine. When a building goes up in flames, Frozone and Mr. Incredible get everyone out safely before the place crashes to the ground. Superhero work has been made illegal at this point, so the police get called to the scene to arrest the pair for not letting the innocent civilians burn to death. How dare they? We look like a bad guy. It's time to this bad guy. Freeze! Frozone puts his hands up but says he's thirsty and needs a drink. Little does the cop know, just a few drops of H2O will recharge the powers for Frozone that he lost in the fire. And why didn't you? I know. Freeze. The rest of the police storm the building, but Frozone and Mr. I have already escaped, leaving the cop completely frozen in ice. And if you look closely, you can actually still see the officer's eyes moving. So we know he didn't die. But I'm sure he suffered a serious case of frostbite that would definitely be grounds for assault. And if we're also charging Frozone with evading arrest, then we need to add another 26 years and $6,000 in fines to his icy cold sentence. Wow, dude, I've only covered half of the Incredibles characters' crimes, and these guys have already racked up a combined total of 87 years in prison and $927,500 in fines. But trust me, that's only gonna get bigger once this next character is put in the hot seat. Last girl, stretchier than Laffy Taffy, and still loves her husband, Mr. Incredible, even if he's not as slim as he was 15 years ago. But one thing she won't love is spending the rest of her life behind bars. She could always squeeze in between them, though. Bob did all the reckless driving in the first movie, but in Incredibles 2, we see Elastigirl having way too much fun on her new high-speed motorcycle. That was last. Now that she's officially back in superhero work, her only method of transportation is driving recklessly. That means anybody in the city could be run over and nobody's car is safe. Reckless driving and criminal damage will land Elastigirl with a 4-year prison sentence and a hefty $51,000 fine. That'll be coming out of Violet's college fund. When Elastigirl finds out Bob is secretly doing superhero work on a remote island, she becomes so angry that she immediately packs a bag and goes to give him peace of her mind. She leaves Violet in charge of Dash and Jack, but the two older kids are desperate to come along and sneak onto their mom's plane, which is doomed to become a target for Syndrome's missiles. The three of them miraculously escape a fiery death, but are now stranded on Nomanasan Island in the middle of nowhere. And what does Helen do? She only abandons her two children in the jungle while she goes to find Bob. Parenting definitely isn't one of her superpowers. I'm going to look for him, and that means you're in charge until I get back, Violet. What? You heard her. Put these on. Your identity is your most valuable possession. But I mean, to be fair, what else was she supposed to do? At least she left him alone with a warm fire. But wouldn't that make her more irresponsible? I don't know, man. Regardless, that puny fire is nothing compared to this. What did you do? Ah! Yeah, the launch pad for Syndrome's rocket was actually built into that safe cave Helen left her two kids in. Almost getting them cremated, let alone deserting him in the first place, is definitely grounds for child neglect and abandonment. And a guilty verdict would mean 5 years in prison and a $2,500 fine. Saving people is Elastigirl's favorite hobby, and she does a good job most of the time. When Ambassador Selleck is about to be assassinated by a screenslaver, Elastigirl swoops through the sky and jumps into her plane to protect her. How does she plan on saving the old lady? By drowning her. Hey, you all... The old lady didn't jump and would have been obliterated in the plane crash had Elastigirl not stretched herself into a parachute and saved the day again. I'm perfectly fine. Why does the ambassador kind of look like Dolores Umbridge, though? Helen made front-page news for saving the ambassador and was given a round of applause from civilians the next day. But there won't be much cheering when she gets sentenced to 7 years in jail for reckless endangerment and fined $5,000. The ambassador wasn't dumb enough to jump into water as an honest swimmer, but Elastigirl didn't even give the other people on the plane a choice, just kick them straight out. If throwing people out of planes isn't reckless, I don't know what is. As if zooming through the streets at dangerously high speeds isn't reckless enough, Elastigirl also has a bad habit of never using doors and is always smashing through windows. But that's nothing compared to just causing massive explosions. Come on. Those clips would earn Helen 9 years in the Stony Lonesome for criminal damage, plus she'd be getting slapped with a huge $150,000 fine. I still can't believe nobody on that train died. After abandoning her kids in the jungle, Helen breaks into the Kronos facility to try and find Bob. The greatest superhero ever then gets her leg caught in the doorway, but knocks out the 2 guards before they can sound the alarm. Hey! In one of the most creative I just got trapped and need to get out of said trap scenes of all time. She steals the guard's passkey to free her leg from the doorway and then hides the bodies of the unconscious guards in a locker. Legally, the only excuse for hitting someone else is if your safety is threatened, which I mean, it kinda was. But Elastigirl wasn't technically under attack from those guards this time around, so she'd be facing 75 years in prison and a $15,000 fine for assault. Charge her with 3 counts of assault here because later on in the movie, she really let Mirage have it after catching her hugging her husband. Family survived the crash. They're here on the island. They're alive. Helen? Hello. You must be Mr. Seaflash. She was helping me to escape. No, that's what I was doing. Let go of me. Let go, you lousy, lying, unfaithful creep. How could I betray the perfect woman? Altogether, Elastigirl's earned herself 100 years in jail plus an incredible $223,500 fine. And who's better to cover next than her husband, Mr. Incredible? While all the Incredibles are super screw-ups, Bob Parr's criminal history suggests he's the biggest one of the whole family. Did I do something illegal? No. Hell yeah. The fact that Elastigirl and Mr. Incredible allowed their kids to accompany them on dangerous crime-fighting missions is already enough evidence to say that they both sucked being parents. But it was most irresponsible here. Well, I think Helen deserves the worst parent trophy more for abandoning Dash and Violet in the jungle. But check out this A-plus parenting from Bob. Yeah, I didn't came from there. Not cool. Yet he only went and fell asleep holding the baby. That's the first thing they teach you not to do in prenatal class. And while I'm sure it'd take a little more than falling off the couch to kill a super baby like Jack Jack, Mr. Incredible would still be getting charged with child endangerment and slapped with a 3-year prison sentence and $1,000 fine. The first crime we see Mr. Incredible commit in The Incredibles is reckless driving. Speeding isn't too heinous, but nearly running down a senior citizen sure is. Ooh, Mr. Incredible, I'm Mr. Incredible. What is it, ma'am? My cat's sweet. After almost turning that sweet old lady into roadkill, Mr. Incredible rescues her cat from the tree by tearing it up from the root and shaking it like a frackin' protein shake. The kitty then gets returned to its owner's arms, and surprisingly without serious head trauma. And just when you thought Bob did a good deed, this happens. Reckless driving would earn Bob 1 year in jail plus a $1,000 fine, and damaging that guy's car would add another 3 years and $50,000 to his punishment. Calling Bob strong would certainly be an understatement. He's literally Pixar's version of the Hulk and seems to have the Green Monster's raging fury to boot. Remember when he showed his boss who's boss after the grouchy frick threatened to fire him for wanting to leave his post and save someone from being mugged? The audacity. And later in the first movie, we also saw Bob just outright thinking he's a boa constrictor. Family survived the crash. They're here on the island. They're alive. There are, of course, way more examples of Mr. Incredible kicking butt, but these clips are the only attacks not made in self-defense. For 2 counts of assault, Bob will be spending the next 50 years in the big house, and he'll be $10,000 out of pocket. Did you know that Jack the Ripper, an evil serial killer, had 5 victims over the course of 3 years, and Mr. Incredible killed 5 people in less than 5 minutes? And that's just a warm-up. If we fast forward like 30 minutes into the movie, we get to see Bob kill a van full of guards without even breaking a sweat. I mean, we don't know if they're killed, but for the sake of YouTube content, and there's no way I can leave out the iconic death of Syndrome at the end of the movie. Haha! He's getting away from us. He's stupid. We have to do something now. No. Something's happening. What's happening? We have to stop him. Throw something, kid. I might hit Jack there. Throw me. Bob, throw me. No. This isn't the end of it. I will get your son eventually. I'll get your son. Oh, no. Look at mommy, honey. Don't look down. Mommy's got you. Oh, man. Did you hear that snag when the cape got caught in the Oh, dude. Heart drop. While Syndrome and his guards were scumbags, Mr. Incredible had no legal excuse for killing them since he wasn't acting in self-defense in any of those clips. I mean, he was saving his child. But I digress. Bob has the blood of 9 people on his hands in total. And as a life sentence for murder can be as high as 40 years, that's 360 years this literal serial killer is getting locked up for. But that's not even the scariest part. That would be the massive $9 million fine. Syndrome and his guards aren't even worth a $1 fine altogether, though. Overall, Mr. Incredible is looking at 417 years in jail, as well as a jaw-dropping $9,062,000 in fines. And if your jaw hasn't quite hit the floor yet, let's talk about the villains. Evelyn Dever looks like an ordinary woman, but her secret identity, the Screenslaver, might just be one of the scariest Disney villains ever, with the worst plot twist in history. While not quite as petty as Syndrome, and don't worry, we'll get to him, Screenslaver is no less obnoxious and likes to take over the city's TV channels to deliver her TED Talks on why superheroes suck. Screenslaver, I have one important announcement. Let's see if your gadget works. Don't bother to watch the girl. Doesn't save the day. Only post for you and chips. Hijacking broadcasting signals is actually a crime, and it carries a maximum penalty of 5 years in jail and a $100,000 fine. What she did is kinda scary though. Like, imagine you're watching your favorite show and all of a sudden some creepy Slenderman looking thing pops up. Jump scare on my life if I still watch TV these days. With her powers of hypnosis, Screenslaver can pretty much make anyone do whatever she wants, including making a train driver drive backwards. Arranging the assassination of Ambassador Sullick. Oh, and also almost crashing a large ship into the city. Both her attempts were foiled by the Incredibles and Frozone, but they were terrorism nonetheless, and 3 counts of the crime would earn Evelyn 60 years in prison. Screenslaver did not take kindly to Elastigirl snooping around her secret lair, and kidnapped a pizza delivery guy so she could hypnotize him into attacking the intruder. Elastigirl's one tough cookie and puts up a fight even when a literal axe gets swung at her. Real Realizing she won't back down, Evelyn makes the pizza guy press the self-destruct button and run away. Elastigirl chases down and captures Screenslaver, and cops arrive to lock the innocent pizza guy in the slammer. Had the real Screenslaver been caught, Evelyn would be facing 24 years in prison for the attempted murder of Elastigirl, 40 years for arson, another 40 for kidnapping the pizza dude, and 5 for obstructing justice. She'd also be getting fined a whopping $105,000. Screenslaver's gonna have to make some butt cuts to pay that one off. No more takeout. You'd probably be banned from her local pizza place for life too. And that is the real punishment. It is super easy for Screenslaver to hypnotize her victims. All she's gotta do is simply get a screen in front of their eyes. That means you can mind control anyone and everyone, including supers, unless they're blind. Yeah, we didn't really think of that one, did we? Elastigirl is celebrating the capture of Screenslaver, but discovers the fiend is still at large. This is no time to party, so she goes into the back end, puts on her thinking cap with Evelyn present, completely unaware that she's about to get slapped with the biggest plot twist of her entire superhero career. All screens is tied to their eye. The screen does a ring. What if it's really a pizza guy, but Marka? Elastigirl wakes up freezing cold and bound to a chair. Screenslaver then reveals the story of how she came to despise superheroes so passionately. But you can, John, supposed to. Our age abilities and the rest put our lives into your believed. When our home was broken in, several keys the state, but father and superhero pointless. Waiting for heroes, believing her parents were fools for putting their lives in other people's hands, Screenslaver has one final goal: make supers illegal forever. And Elastigirl is going to help her do it. Are you gonna get her? He makes them forever. With Elastigirl now under her total control, Evelyn calls up Mr. Incredible and basically tells him his wife is in trouble and he needs to get his butt to the ship at DevTech. He's pumped to finally be doing some super work, but just gets the crap eaten out of him as soon as he turns his back on Screenslaver. And what could be more ego-crushing than that? Well, the person beating him to a pulp is his own wife. Strange how. I don't know if Mr. Incredible's actually weaker than his wife or he just didn't want to fight back, but Helen is now literally choking him to death. Screenslaver isn't dumb enough to let him die though. Big strong dude like Bob will be a very useful minion. Add Frozone to that equation, and Screenslaver's got herself a superhero version of the Three Musketeers, and she'll use them to destroy the reputation of supers at the Superheroes Treaty signing. Ambassador Selleck signs the treaty legalizing superheroes, and everyone gets together for a group photo in front of a screen. With all the guests hypnotized, Screenslaver makes Mr. Incredible, Elastigirl, and Frozone publicly renounce their superhero duties and basically say F you to the people of the world before storming the boat's cockpit, knocking out the entire crew in the process. Mayday! 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 Hold! Let approach! Repeat half! We're here also! I'm steering the boat in the opposite direction. Everything's going according to plan, but suddenly Jack turtles into the cockpit, desperate for a hug from Mommy. No, put him! Elastigirl breaks the other two's goggles before Screenslaver even has a chance to plan her next move. The Incredibles and Frozone then free the other minions and stop the ship from crashing into the city. Evelyn gets arrested for causing all that chaos, but how can she be prosecuted for mind control? Taking control of someone's mind would probably just fall under assault. We don't know exactly how many people fell victim to Screenslaver's hypnosis, but I'll put the number at around 300. That includes the people she hypnotized and the people she assaulted through the minds of her minions. An assault carries a penalty of 25 years in jail, so 300 counts would mean a long 7,500 years in jail and a massive $1.5 million fine. We tally up Screenslaver's prison sentence in total. The villain is looking at 7,674 years in prison and a fine of $1,705,000. That huge sentence made you say, well, trust me, you're gonna be left totally speechless by Mirage's sentence. Mirage once told Mr. Incredible that she's attracted to power. I mean, what else would she find attractive about Syndrome? And she clearly wasn't lying when she said that because her criminal record speaks for itself. As Syndrome's sidekick, Mirage's main job is to track down the next superheroes on his hit list and trick them into coming to the island so they can be murdered. And really, you can't execute an evil plan like that without doing a little bit of stalking first. We are not doing that again. Verify you want to switch targets. Over. Trust me, this is the one he's been looking for. Aside from just being creepy, stalking is an invasion of privacy, warranting 2 years in prison and a $100,000 fine. After tracking down Kronos' next victim, Mr. Incredible, Mirage invites him to the island with promises of a top-secret superhero mission. And she sent the invitation the only way a message can be sent in an action movie. This message will self-destruct. Sending a self-destruct message was cool and all, but it could easily get Mirage charged with arson and criminal damage, and a conviction would mean 43 years in the clink and a $100,000 fine. When Mr. Incredible arrived on the island, he believed he was there to take out the AI robot thing Kronos had accidentally lost control of. But later in the movie, he discovered the Kronos was very bad news, and by that I mean he found out they are a company that literally murders supers. We saw only some of the victims when Bob hacked the Kronos it hacked. He had the password to the system with Gazer Beam's dying message. Kronos. It was all Syndrome's idea, but Mirage was in on everything, and that makes her just as guilty as he is. Approximately 20 superheroes were terminated, but they weren't the only victims. Mirage told Bob the inhabitants of the island were evacuated after they lost control of the robot. We lost control, and now it's loose in the jungle, threatening our facility. We've had to evacuate all personnel from the island for their own safety. But we know that was clearly BS, because Syndrome never actually lost control of the robot until he released it into the city. Now, I don't know how many people lived on that island, but it's quite big. Let's say around 100,000 inhabitants were killed by Kronos on that island. So if we add the 20 murdered supers to the equation, Mirage is looking at 4,800,000 years in jail for mass murder. Oh, don't even get me started on the fine. Take this mind-blowing $100 billion and $20 million fine and do something with it. Pay it, ignore it, sweat over. I don't know, man. I don't know what you're gonna do. Oh, and I can't possibly forget to add that measly 20 years to her massive sentence for being complicit in the terrorist plus release the robot into the city. On the whole, Mirage is looking at a grand total of 4,865 years behind bars and a depressing $100,020,200,020 fine. But what about the supervillain she serves? Well, as the most evil villain in possibly the entire history of Disney, leave a comment if you agree with me. You can bet your lucky stars Syndrome's sentence is gonna be truly incredible. If you ever became famous, would you be one of those celebrities that treat their fans like friends or like dirt? Do you trust yourself with all that fame and power? Well, if The Incredibles taught us anything, it's that being a total jerk to your fans can have very bad consequences. Pao, who has a more iconic villain origin story than Syndrome. He was a normal kid and literally grew up to be a sociopathic monster, all because his hero was rude to him. The pettiest thing I've ever seen. Anyway, being a victim of Mr. Incredible's douchebaggery isn't an excuse for committing these diabolical crimes. Up first, attempted murder. If Syndrome tried to fight Mr. Incredible man to man, he'd be knocked out cold in the first punch. But with a huge, terrifying, spherical robot tower behind, he is Mr. Incredible's toughest opponent ever. It's bigger. It's better. Ladies and gentlemen, it's too much. Mr. Incredible. Whoa, whoa, whoa. It's finally rain. Syndrome starts to brag about his epic invention, and Bob finally recognizes him as the annoying child fan he shunned 15 years ago. I am your biggest fan. Buddy, my name is not Buddy! And it's not Incredible either. Bob tries to apologize for being a jerk all those years ago, but Syndrome's having none of it and is determined to finally make him pay for being so disrespectful. Alright, try this one on for size, big boy. Whoa. Unaware that Mr. Incredible survived the explosion, Syndrome walks away smugly, feeling very satisfied about killing off Mr. Mediocre. Learning that he's still alive, though, will be very infuriating. But getting charged with his attempted murder and then thrown into the big house for 24 years and fined $1 million will certainly be blood-boiling. Instead of going home and crying to his mommy about being defeated by his own robot and then by the Incredible, Syndrome, hell-bent on getting petty revenge again, breaks into their home and steals little Jack Jack. He's getting away from it. He's stupid. He has to do something now. But this baby is anything but helpless, and it doesn't even need mommy or daddy to save him from a big fat man. Ah no. Something's happening. What's happening? We have to stop him! Throw something, kid! I might hit Jack Jack. Throw me. Bob, throw me! Just when Syndrome's self-esteem couldn't stoop any lower, he gets beaten by a literal baby. Oh, and then blown up by Mr. Incredible's. Child abduction carries a sentence of 40 years and a fine of $100,000, but an adorable baby like Jack Jack is worth at least something. After setting off the booby traps and alerting everyone at Kronos of the fact that he's still alive, Mr. Incredible gets held captive by Syndrome, who makes fun of him for being lame, rejecting much, before trying to torture information out of him. Alright, who did you contact? Contact? What are you talking about? I am referring to last night at 23:07 hours while you were snooping around. You sent out a homing signal. Didn't? No. I put a homing device. Now a government plane is requesting permission to land here. Who did you contact? I didn't send for a plane. Syndrome orders the plane to be shot down. Now, I don't know what Helen did after giving up superhero work 15 years ago, but she probably went to pilot school at least once because she is an absolute beast at dodging Syndrome's missiles. Indian Golf 909 are transmitting in the blind guard. Disengage. Repeat. Disengage. Disengage, repeat, disengage. You're like, I don't know the full lore. I know she has like a flying buddy, but she used to know. Anyway, that's why you always listen to fasten your seatbelts, kids. More missiles keep coming and one eventually strikes the aircraft. Home, the kids miraculously survive, but are now plummeting to their deaths. Disney obviously is not going to let that happen, so how do they save themselves? Brace yourselves! I love how they immediately stop screaming and just look up like, the hell? Believing the missiles were a success, Syndrome gloats in Mr. Incredible's face and basically tells the dude to get over the deaths of his family. We have a confirmed hit. Target was destroyed. Ah, you'll get over it. I seem to recall you prefer to work alone. Yep, being able to hold the longest grudge in history is definitely Syndrome's superpower. It was 15 years ago, dude. Move on! Mirage and Syndrome exit the torture chamber, leaving Mr. Incredible to sob over the death of his whole family, but soon his wife rises from the dead to rescue him. The two of them then run through the jungle and catch up with the kids who are also on the run from security. Family annihilate all the guards with minimal effort, but Syndrome catches them all with his 0-point energy. The coolest thing ever. The Incredibles are brought back to the Kronos facility and held captive, and now it's time for Syndrome to reveal the incredibly petty reason he's trying to murder every superhero in the city. Syndrome will save the day! I'll be a bigger hero than you ever were. You mean you killed off real heroes so that you could pretend to be one? Oh, I'm real. Real enough to defeat you. He vows to become the most spectacular hero anybody's ever seen and then sell his inventions so that everybody could become super, thus rendering no one super. I screwed up that quote so bad, but you get the point. Yeah, his ego's really that fragile. Violet uses her powers to free her family before they met their demise, but that doesn't mean Syndrome is getting a get-out-of-jail-free card. Not only did he kidnap the family and try to have them all killed, he also just flat-out tortured Mr. Incredible. Syndrome's vile crimes have earned him 280 years in prison and a $4,410,000 fine. But wait, we're not done yet. As you already know, the main objective of Operation Kronos was to rid the city of superheroes. Terminating a bunch of supers was a very terrible thing to do, but it wasn't the worst part of the plan. That was to release the mega-destructive Omnidroid robot into the city and cause a mini-apocalypse. Sticking to the plan, superhero syndrome swoops in and saves the day, saves the mom and baby from getting crushed to death. He starts beating up the robot, quote unquote, but accidentally loses control of the machine. Now faced with the true wrath of his own creation, it takes seconds before superhero syndrome pathetically falls flat on his face, leaving all the citizens still in terrible danger. The Incredibles, with a little help from Frozone, fight off the robot by the end of the movie and get a round of applause from the people while Syndrome watches, green with envy. There is no way at least 100 civilians did not die in all that carnage, and considering all the superheroes he had murdered plus the deaths of the indigenous population of Madison Island, Syndrome is going to be spending 4,820 years in jail for mass murder and terrorism. And his grand total punishment, 4,005,164 years and $100,125,510,000 in fines. It's so big it makes my head hurt. You see, if we combine every Incredibles character's crimes together for some reason, it's because we love big numbers here, these guys are going to be spending in total 8,013,307 years in the slammer and a frackin' calculator destroying fine of $200,157,628,020. But can one single character outrank 10? Click the screen to find out.